We've got some big board game news, almost as big as this box. Orange Nebula just announced Vestige. Now, this is their next game, but it harkens back to this big one right here, Vindication, because this is kind of a spiritual successor. It's definitely not a sequel, but they're calling it a streamlined game based on the skeleton of what this game does. But streamlined, we're not sure how different it is based on what we know so far.
They used the term reimagined.
Reimagined
in their
and
text.
re-implemented.
Reimplemented, reimagined. They're not calling it Vindication Second Edition or anything like that. And it's not even like a new game set in the same universe.
No, it's science fiction.
It is a full-on sci-fi, and it leans into that sci-fi through the entire game. If you're seeing pictures, if you go to their page, watch their video, the entire premise still kind of hinges on the fact that you're like not a great person.
You are wretched. It says right there. The rule book of Vindication says you're wretched.
Yeah.
This game says you're wretched. One difference, and we don't know this for sure, but here's my theory. Vindication, you're wretched, but you're kind of redeeming yourself, or vindicating yourself, I suppose, in that game, trying to do better, trying to turn a new leaf, if you will. Felt like the theme of Vindication. This one kind of suggests that being wretched is going to help you. It says it right in the first line, and then the things that you're doing are kind of underworld things, making back alley deals, doing deals with like bounty hunters or collecting bounties and stuff like that, mercenary type stuff. So I think that's probably going to, mechanically it'll probably feel very similar, but they're changing not only the look and feel of the theme and being sci-fi and kind of like almost not cyberpunky, but a little cyberpunky looking.
Well, it's science. It's full on like far future science fiction, heavy on the science side of things.
Yeah.
But it is that like the bounty hunters, the underworld, the criminal underworld kind of thing. But gameplay wise, we've kind of poured over everything that they have to kind of see. It feels like a lot of what they're talking about, a lot of the changes and the streamlined nature of the game is going to come probably from changes to the cards and the combos and things like that, because the boards themselves don't seem to have undergone a ton of changes.
No, in fact, a lot of the things that we looked into, we were like, okay, that sounds like Vindication. All right, that next thing sounds like Vindication. I mean, the variable board where you're placing out all these different locations as you play, just like Vindication, the way you're moving around those looks very similar. Even your player board uses the same things. I think it's conviction and influence, and it can be potential or conviction. You're going to be using those to power different cards that you place in your Tableau. Probably not companions, but I know there's chop bots, which you at least have one of.
Yeah, that is one difference that we saw that I can definitely point to that I think was designed to kickstart the game. Because if you remember Vindication, everyone is dealt a random companion card, and you could get a companion card that is very helpful for you, or you could get one where maybe you need to kind of build into it. So I would say the fact that you're drawing these companions randomly at the start of the game maybe led to some uneven starts.
Maybe. The companions are pretty close.
I mean, they are pretty close, but these are specific starting cards.
Yeah, but you're still getting them randomly, right?
Well, you are, but you're getting a random
I see what
bot.
you're saying.
So they could all be kind of designed to kind of help. We haven't seen them. We don't know what they do. We only say the video promised that you're going to start with one instead of just a random companion. You start with this robot helper. It said it could be adorable, deadly, or adorably deadly.
Probably the latter.
And I'm guessing, again, speculating, that these are more evenly balanced, so that every player has one that's going to kind of help kick off their game a little bit.
Yeah, I would say, again, speculating here, the things that help keep the game moving more quickly are what you're going to see. Like Ryan said, with some of the cards that you're going to play, my guess is the pacing with which you're going to be scoring your points or potentially triggering some of the end game triggers might be accelerated compared to Vindication, because like we said, a lot of the things you're doing feel very, very, very similar. And speaking of which, if you're not familiar with Vindication, some of the cool things that Vindication does, this is doing, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Vindication. Vindication's,
it's great.
I think, probably in my top 10 of all time. I really love the game. With that said, this big boy has not hit the table in a while, and the idea of a streamlined experience with a different setting is very appealing to me, and the components look really cool. And one of the coolest things about Vindication, in my opinion, was those end game triggers.
Yeah.
You get 2 at the beginning of the game, and you're like, okay, everyone knows those. But then as people make their way around the scoring track, other ones are revealed. And I've had games of Vindication where one was revealed and someone was like, oh, I could do that on my next. I could do that on my next turn. I played one game of Vindication where that happened with new players, and they all said, let's just keep playing.
Sure, we don't want to.
They didn't want to end it
Yeah.
because everyone was enjoying it, and it felt like we had just gotten underway. So it's a really interesting thing. I haven't seen that in too many other games. And I love that.
They've kept that. They've also kept what I think is the other cool part, which is like the color matching system.
Yeah.
They refer to it as like the color wheel here. You'll get these tokens that are placed in different attributes, and each one represents a different facet of the galaxy, or the types of
different
people.
different
qualities, and they're exemplified by these different organizations in the new one. But where they meet in the middle, you're kind of matching those colors. They say if you can understand the color wheel, you can figure out where these two colors match. Now, all of that was kind of done on the outside of the scoring track. It is now a separate board. So that at least is one thing I think they've done. I don't know if that streamlines the game, but it definitely does make it easier to quickly process the information of what color combinations can I make and where everybody is. Like separating that out, it makes the board feel a little cleaner and not as busy.
I would say, if nothing else, it compartmentalizes the information that you're trying to soak up while you're playing, so you can just boom and boom. I mean, I don't think it was terribly difficult to look around, but the board had a lot going on, for sure. But yeah, you're going to be combining colors, one quality and one quality. It might be blue and yellow, but the combined one is green. And in the game, that usually granted you access to purchase that color card.
Yeah, which it
I
still
assume
does.
is going to be the case here as well.
They reference it, at least thematically, those terms have all changed as far as what you're generating with these different, types of energy. But you're getting access to different kinds of cards. And again, huge thematic overlay here with it being sci-fi. All of those cards represent something, like you're getting weapons or gear or pieces of equipment and things like that.
You need guile to do deals with certain factions and stuff like that, which again gives you those cards, and you're basically using all those cards to build a tableau to allow you to just keep playing the game better and better and better.
Yeah, and it seems like just because of the way the player board looks, with the same information printed on the player board, and the way
player boards look very similar.
The way that you're spending energy in a similar way makes me feel like that whole concept of like you're putting energy out on your guys to use them. You have to find ways to get that energy back to use them again. I feel like is probably going to be present, although we haven't seen that. I would imagine if that was taken away, the game would feel quite differently. Maybe that is part of the reimagining. Yeah. But I kind of like that system.
Yeah, so we don't know exactly what to expect other than the fact that this is going to feel very familiar and fun for those who like Vindication. Not to mention, has sort of this new coat of paint and theme on top of it. If I were to use an analogy like in the video game world, I'd say this isn't like a PlayStation 2. This isn't Vindication 2.
No, sure.
It's also not Vindication Slim.
Sure, it's not.
But it's kind of Vindication 2 Slim.
Yeah,
like it's somewhere between a sequel and a streamlined experience.
Yeah, it feels like if you love Vindication, there's probably going to be a lot to love here. I'm into it. Like I love Vindication, so I'm down for a sci-fi version of that.
Well, and Vindication ended up getting kind of crazy with all the stuff they added over time.
Well, I would imagine that's going to get.
This one might get crazy, but given the fact that they're pitching it as a streamlined experience, maybe they are just going to keep it as is.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what the rules look like. I hope they release the rules soon. I'm guessing the streamline comes in, like just maybe some unnecessary rules were cut out. Maybe some processes are done a little faster.
It's possible. It's possible. We'll see. Right now, it doesn't look wildly different in that respect, but as we learn more, we'll share it here, and I'm sure there will be more details soon. We don't know when their campaign is coming. They literally just announced this. They do have a page up on GameFound, but there's no date or anything like that. So stay tuned. I'm sure we'll talk about it on Crowd Control or at some point in the future. If you have any questions or speculation or any thoughts, or if you know any information about this game, if you work at Orange Nebula and we can pay you off in some way to give us some details, or let us know in the comments below. Send us a prototype.
We would love to get our hands on that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hey, forget comments. Send us a prototype. Anyway, until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.